All right, everybody, welcome into the Week 7 NFL prop video. Last week, we ended up doing pretty well. I believe going 5-8 on my predictions in the video, so that was good. And yeah, I think we'll just get right into this next one. I'm going to start out with DK Metcalf at 68.5 receiving yards. All these numbers, once again, will be coming from DraftKings, so that's where you should look. This just feels like a really easy over. This number is way too small. When I was checking other sites to compare it on Bovada, it's like 75. I believe Monkey Knife Fight, it's 80. Like, this just seems way too good to be true. So I got it at minus 112. I'm pretty sure it's minus 130 now. But this just feels almost like a free square. I mean, Arizona's defense isn't necessarily terrible, but it's not comparable to DK Metcalf. I mean, I wouldn't say matchup proof yet at this point against cornerbacks, but he's pretty close to it. His talent level is pretty insane, and I think he should be able to easily get this. Next up, we got Will Fuller, 5.5 receptions at plus 131, and I'm going with the over on this one also. This just seems like really good value right here. Fuller is going against the Packers defense, which is not that impressive. Yes, Jair Alexander will be on the field, but he's only shadowed 3 out of 6 games so far this year, so we're probably not going to see Will Fuller just match up completely against him. And I think 5.5 receptions in a high-scoring game with a high total is not too much to ask for. I think he goes over. Plus 131 is a very good value. I really like that, so I'm sticking with it. Next up, we got Jarvis Landry, 42.5 receiving yards at minus 112, and I'm going to be going with the under. Jarvis Landry just broke a rib last week, and Baker Mayfield is going to be playing on a pretty injured arm/shoulder. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of unders hit in this game, unless you're talking about Kareem Hunt. I think the offense is going to run through Kareem Hunt, so I'm just not a fan of taking Jarvis Landry this week. I think you can get better numbers in different places too. I believe Bovada had like 51, 52, something like that. So shop around obviously, but I'm going with the under for Jarvis Landry receiving yards. Next up, we got J.D. McKissick, 3.5 receptions at minus 108, and I'm going to be going with the over. Once again, I think McKissick is on the field when they need a running back to throw to. And I think they're going to be throwing a good little bit against Dallas this week. I think they will probably be behind a decent amount of the game, and we saw when they played the Rams that McKissick was out there. So the last 3 weeks he's had 6, and 7 receptions. 3.25 or 3.5 is definitely not too much to ask for. And I also think I'm not currently betting it, but there's also value in Antonio Gibson plus 1,000 or plus 100, at 3.5 receptions also. Last week, I ended up betting both of them, and they both hit. I think there's a pretty good chance for them both to hit again this week. Next up, I'm going to be going with DeAndre Swift over 21.5 receiving yards at minus 114. I think this is a pretty good value right here. He's hit this in half of the game so far this year. And the only time he really struggled was that game when he was benched due to violating team protocol. So Swift will be out there. He just came off a monster week. He's real popular on DraftKings this week. I'm not as big of a fan on DraftKings, but I mean, with his talent level, the way he can break away, I think it only really takes a couple plays for him to get 21.5 receiving yards. So I don't trust the coaching staff, but I think his talent is definitely enough to get him there. He also had some pretty good value at over 3.5 receptions at that plus 100, I believe. But I stayed away from that this week. But I definitely could see the interest right there. I think Swift is a pretty solid play. Next up, Cam Newton, 48.5 rush yards, minus 114. We're sticking with the over. Cam runs. He doesn't throw. We saw that last week against a decent defense with Denver, and I think we're going to see it again with a improved 49ers defense. Cam is not throwing it the way he used to, and that's fine. If he can compensate on the ground, then that'll be their strategy. And the 49ers are not good at stopping rushing quarterbacks, as we've seen earlier in the year with guys like Kyler. So I think Cam can definitely hit over 48.5 rush yards. Next up, we're going to be going with Dalton Schultz at 27.5 receiving yards and minus 125. We're going to be going with the over on this one. Washington is not good at covering the tight end, and Dalton Schultz has stayed an important piece of this offense with so much talent all across the field. It's really easy to forget about a guy like him, and I think he just gets in his catches and gets in his yards every game, and I think we'll see him hit 27.5 pretty easily in this game. Next up, we got Justin Herbert at over 0.5 interceptions at plus 100. Herbert has a knack to throw the ball down the field, even sometimes for no reason. I think Jacksonville keeps this game pretty close. Jacksonville doesn't have a good defense, but I think this is more on Justin Herbert looking to get that first win of the year, and I think he'll get a little bit excited at one point in this game. This isn't a statistical call or anything like that. This is just a gut feeling, so I definitely can understand avoiding and wanting to not tail this one, but I'm going with it. I have a good feeling about it. So next up, we're going to be going with Terry McLaurin anytime touchdown, plus 129. I think this is a good play. I see a lot of juice on the Terry McLaurin over receiving yards number. I've seen it shift up on some websites. And then other websites, I see some decent value on the over on receptions. But I don't know. I feel like Washington doesn't have a lot of goal line options. Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic are their lead backs, and neither of those two guys are very good on the goal line. They still do have Peyton Barber, but he doesn't get involved that often. So I think once they get to the goal line, which I think they're going to have to, and they should against a terrible Cowboys defense, I think Terry gets a touchdown, even if it's from deep out, even if it's on the red zone. I think Terry gets a touchdown somehow. So I'm sticking with the Terry McLaurin anytime TD. Alright, and I'm going to break this up into a second half of the video where I'm going to be talking about some of my more ambitious bets and a parlay. So these aren't something I would recommend tailing necessary, just some bets that I saw that aren't super likely to happen, but I feel decently good about them, so I want to share them. First off, it's going to be Taysom Hill anytime TD plus 300. I actually feel pretty good about this one. I think I'm going to put down a couple units on it just because Taysom Hill gets involved out there, whether fantasy or whether sports and NFL Twitter likes it or not, okay? Taysom Hill may not be the most talented guy in the world, but, I mean, he gets out there and they want to use him, and they're down Michael Thomas and they're down Emmanuel Sanders. Like, I think Taysom Hill can find his way into the end zone, as he's done a couple times so far this year. I have a pretty good feeling about this one. Next up, we're going with Ezekiel Elliott, first touchdown versus the Washington football team at plus 425. I think Zeke is the most likely, as shown in the lines, he's the most likely person to get the first touchdown. I think they score first, and I think this offense is really run through Zeke, so unless there's a big play given up or something, I think Zeke's going to get most of the opportunities on the goal line, and I think he has the best shot of getting it. But on the other side of the ball, I like Kyle Allen first touchdown plus 3,000. This has some pretty good value. Kyle Allen has already rushed in a touchdown this year. And like I said earlier, with Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic, they do have a lack of goal line backs. You see guys like Logan Thomas out there, who is a decent goal line presence at tight end or red zone presence, but he's kind of sucks. I feel like Kyle Allen might just end up taking it in himself. So I'm going to be putting Zeke and Kyle Allen on both sides of the ball. Definitely not safe, but I kind of like the Kyle Allen value right there. And finally, I'm going to be talking about a parlay that I liked that I put in earlier. It's going to be Baker Mayfield under 234.5 passing yards for the Browns against the Bengals. He's only hit this number once this year, and that's including going against teams with no defense like the Cowboys and the Bengals earlier this year. I was very surprised to see that. I'm probably going to straight up bet this one also. Baker has been getting this team wins this year, but he hasn't had to pass the ball. The offense is going to go through the running back, and I think we'll see that with Kareem Hunt this week. So that's the first leg. Then we're going to go with Ezekiel Elliott over 29.5 receiving yards, or you can sub that in with, I believe it's his reception number is 5.5. I think either one of those work. I think he'll get some receiving work due to the pressure that the Washington defensive line is going to get on him. So I think Zeke will hit that rushing yards number pretty steadily. And then finally, it's going to be TJ Hawkinson anytime TD. I think this is pretty good value just because Hawkinson is always a red zone threat over there, and this game has a decently high total against the Falcons, who can't stop a tight end to save their life. So overall, this 3-player parlay is going to be plus 803. I think that's some decent value. So I locked that one in already. I hope you guys win some money with me this week. If you watched last week, hopefully you got some money out of that. And thank you.